All right, now let's take a look at this one. So if you know the length of something in millimeters, you can calculate its length in centimeters. Complete the table. So what is the constant proportionality? So this is 70 millimeters. There's something in my throat. I don't know what is it. So remember, we got every 1 centimeter. That would mean I got 10 millimeters, right? That is the proportion relationship that we're given. So if I want 70 millimeters, I just have to multiply the denominator and the numerator by 7. I got 7 centimeters and 70 millimeters. So in fact, 70 millimeters is equal to 7 centimeters, right? If we extend this, I know this ruler doesn't really go here. Maybe this will be like 60 and this will be 70, right? This will be 60 and that'll be 70. In terms of centimeters, this is going to be 6 and that's going to be 7, right? So 7 centimeters is the same thing as 70 millimeters. 6 centimeters is the same thing as 60 millimeters. So this is actually how you can find that out, right? So this is actually in centimeters, it's a 7. Now before we multiplied by 10, but this time we're doing something different, right? We're actually, the number is actually getting smaller, even though the length is still the same, right? So then we got 1 centimeter and then 10 millimeters, right? Now we want to get 245, right? We want to be able to get 245. And you're like, Mr. Kim, how do I get 245 millimeters from that, right? Because it's kind of difficult to tell. How do I go from this number to that number? What number do I have to multiply? And the key to this is you just actually divide, because if you want to find this number, the opposite of multiplication is division, right? So let's do 245 divided by 10. 245 divided by 10, and that's going to give you 24.5. So that's going to give you 24.5. You're like, Mr. Kim, I don't believe you. Well, let's take a look. So 10 times 24.5, 10 times 24.5 is equal to 245. You see 245? So if you want to find out what number you have to multiply to this number to get that number, you just have to divide these numbers, and that's how you get it. So we're going to multiply 24.5 and we got 24.5 centimeters. So 245 millimeters is the same thing as 24.5 centimeters, right? And then for millimeters, right? 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters, right? And then, so 10 millimeters. And then I got 4 millimeters here, right? 4 millimeters. You're like, uh-oh, Mr. Kim, how do I get that number? How do I get this question mark number, right? Once again, just divide this number by that number. So 4 divided by 10. So 4 divided by 10. And that will give you 0.4, right? So if I do 0.4, watch, I'll prove it to you. 10 times 0.4, 10 times 0.4 is in fact 4. So you just divide these two numbers, divide this number by that number to get this number. And they got 0.4, and then 1 times 0.4 is 0.4 centimeters, right? So that's going to be 0.4. Now, as you can see, I think there's a pattern. I think you guys might be seeing it too. You're just dividing this by 10 each time, right? Watch, I'll show it to you. 7 divided by 10. 7 divided by 10 is 0.7. Whoops. Or, well, not 7 divided, 70 divided by 10. 70 divided by 10. 70 divided by, 70 divided by 7. 70 divided by 7 is 10. 7 divided by 10 is 7, right? What am I doing? Whoops. 70 divided by 10. That's right. 70 divided by 10 is 7. 70 divided by 10 is 7. 245 divided by 10. 245 divided by 10 is in fact equal to 245.5 or 224.5. 4 divided by 10 is equal to 0.4. 4 divided by 10 is equal to 0.4. So this one, you just have to do 699,991.1, right, divided by 10. and that's going to give me 69.91 centimeters. So that is actually the constant proportionality this time, right? So before we multiplied by 10, but this time around we're dividing by 10, and dividing by 10 is the same thing as actually multiplying by 1 over 10 or multiplying by 0.10. That is actually the same thing. Why? So let me show you. So let's just have 5 times 0.10 and 5 divided by 10. I'll show you that that's the same thing. So 5 times 0.1, 5 times 0.1, see, is 0.5. And then 5 divided by 10, 5 divided by 10 is also equal to 0.5. It's also equal to 0.5, you see? So 0.10, which dividing by 10 is the same thing as multiplying by 1 over 10 or multiplying by 0.10. So the constant proportionality here is actually 0.1, or you can say 1 over 10, right? It's the same thing. Why? Because the constant proportionality is the number by which you multiply this number to get that number for every single value in the table. So every single value in the table, I divide by 10, what do I get? I get this number here. So this is a proportional relationship.